Good afternoon, everybody. It's Jen with ProfitSword. We're going to get started in just probably another minute. I'm still waiting on a handful of people, not too many. Welcome to today's training. It is the ProfitSword New User Interface Basics. This call is geared towards the people that use the system on a daily basis, not necessarily the people who are administrators. So we won't be reviewing any administrative functions, but more so the simple pages that we will see every day, some of the daily income journal pages, some of the forecasting pages. We're going to talk about dashboarding and some of those other items. So this is for our property level and our end users who are in the system working every day. Like I said, we'll get started in just another minute or so. We are recording this call. It will be sent out to you tomorrow about this time, about 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It'll be attached to an email from GoToWebinar, so if you want to share it with anyone else in your organization, you'll have it available to you. A copy of the presentation, if anybody wants it, you can certainly reach out to me. I'm happy to email it to you. And we'll get started in just a minute. Everybody will stay on mute through the remainder of the call. We have quite a few different people from different clients on the phone, and we do like to maintain background noise. Accompanying me today on the call is Bombay, who is part of my training team. He is available to answer as many questions as you may have. You can simply enter them into the questions box and he'll get a response for you. If he doesn't get a response to you, or if he gets too many questions, we'll follow up with you after the call. The system does record those questions, so if we by chance don't get to your question, we'll follow up with you right after the call. All right, everybody should be seeing my ProfitSword New User Interface Basics screen. It's a couple minutes after. We're just going to go ahead and get started now. So our agenda today. First, we're going to talk about what is the new user interface. If you're somebody who's not familiar or maybe haven't heard of it before, we'll talk to you briefly about what that is. We'll move over into some basic navigation. We'll talk about some widgets and dashboards, which are completely new in the system. We'll talk about any changes, some new functionality, and then we'll talk about the future of what we call the classic or the system that you're working in now. We will navigate to and from the live system, so part of today's call will be done on a PowerPoint, and then we'll navigate back and forth into the live system to demonstrate things for you. Again, if you have any questions along the way, please put them in the question box. So the ProfitSword New User Interface, what is it? It is not an element of our system. It really is our system. It is the newest version of what you guys currently work in now. We are working on building out ProfitPace, Profit Plan, Profit Wizard, Profit Sage, all of those are available in what we're calling the new user interface. It came about because back in 2013 we needed to begin to enhance our system to be available on things like cross browsers and tablets and those types of things. But we also needed to get everybody on the same page. And what that means is right now I probably have probably 8 different clients represented on this call. And of those 8 different clients, there's 3 or 4 different potential versions of our system that you could be working on. And what we discovered is that it was very difficult to give some of our older clients some new functionality. And it was very difficult to maintain everybody with everybody being on such different levels of the system. So the new user interface will put everybody in the same place on the same system so that we're able to do enhancements across the board for everybody all at once, and we're able to do them a lot faster because everybody will be in the same place. We did start deploying this to our contacts or to the people who administer your system for you that work for your company earlier this year, January, February, March. So if you're on this call, that means that your contact is potentially ready to start letting you guys at the hotel level in. So let's take a look at what this looks like. On the screen in front of you, you're going to see an example of what the system now looks like. It is considerably brighter. It's not the darker blacks, greens, grays, browns that were always a little bit drab in my opinion. It is brighter. You got some grays, some blues, some lighter blues, lots of nicer, easier appealing on the eyes items going on. You'll also see you have lots of little icons across the screen. In the classic version, to navigate the system effectively, you would hover over top things and they would turn yellow and you would click on them and you could make changes to things. That is different in the new user interface. Most of the items are icon driven, so you'll see now your menu is underneath 3 little lines across the top. If you're a corporate user, to access your hotels, you'll click on the little arrow that's pointing down next to your menu. Over to the right, you'll see your date icon. Your system date used to live underneath your name. Now it is a calendar icon. You'll see the outline of what looks like a human head with some shoulders. That is where you'll get to log out or change your start page. And then you'll see you have a star, which is favorites. If you are an older client, you never had the option to save favorites. If you are a 2.2 client, which means you joined us after 2013, you've had favorites all along. So favorites are new for some of you and not for others. You'll see beside that red arrow is a wrench and a screwdriver. That is a really important icon in the new user interface. It is on just about every screen, and we do call that the options icon. The options icon will change the screen or the box that you're trying to update. What falls underneath that option icon can vary. There could be 15 different options that you can change underneath there, and there could be as little as one. So what's underneath your options will depend on what you're looking at on the screen and what you're trying to change. Finally, you'll see what we call the canvas. Right now you're looking at the room statistics report, which is something everybody should be familiar with. Everybody has that regardless of what version you're on. And your room statistics report is now sitting on top of what we call the canvas. The canvas comes into play because there's lots of functionality if you right-click on the canvas, which we're going to talk about next. One of the other items that are new within the new user interface is the ability to right-click in different places. The first one you'll see on the left-hand side is if you right-click within a widget or a report. In the Classic, if you needed to print or export or do anything to a report or any of the screens, you had that option in the upper right-hand corner of the report. Now you will right-click anywhere on that report and it will bring up all of the options that you're seeing there. So you can print them, view it in Excel, view it as an image, or you can export it to CSV. So you have a couple different options in there for printing your reports. You'll no longer see that link that turns yellow to print or view in Excel within all of your reports in the system. The other right-click functionality is if your cursor is over top of the canvas, and that is bringing up a lot of the items that revolve around building dashboards, which we're going to get to very shortly. So you'll see that there are different items depending on where your cursor is. So if you need to bring up all of the items on the right-hand side, you need to be over top of the canvas. If you want to bring up the options for printing, you'd have to be on top of the widget or on top of the report. When we talk about report navigation, what you're seeing in front of you is a P&L report. Structurally, it will look exactly the same. So you'll see, your forecast compared to your budget, compared to last year, year to date on the right-hand side. In the Classic, whenever you wanted to change that, you had to navigate over top of things to make changes. And it would turn yellow and you would click on it and make the change. The system would go out and reset, make the change, and come back. If you needed to make another change at that point, you would go out and make the change and it comes back. So every time you made a change to a report, the system had to reset. Now, within the new user interface, you're going to click on your options icon when you get on your reports, and you'll make all the changes to your reports all at once. So you'll come in and change your comparisons, your time frames, potentially what you're looking at or what you're comparing to, make all those changes in the green. In the upper right-hand corner, you're going to see a green check mark. There, you're going to click on that, and it's going to reset the entire report all at once. The options, again, that show up underneath each of these boxes on every report are going to vary. Some reports have more things to change than others. So you'll see underneath the options you have a green check mark, which will save any changes you've made. You have a red X right next to it. That's going to exit you out of the options box, but it's still going to keep you on the P&L report. But it's not going to save any of the changes that you made under the options. The trash can on the far left, which will demonstrate this when we get in the live system, the trash can on the far left, if you click on that, it's not only going to exit you out of those options, it's going to exit you out of the P&L completely. So before we get into dashboarding, let's go in and talk about show and demonstrate some of the things that we just talked about. So this is the demo site you have in front of you. I'm going to go ahead and log in. Whenever I get logged in, you're going to notice that for me in particular, I have the messages displaying as my default dashboard. We're going to talk about how you can change that and manipulate that, but you'll see menu is now down the left-hand side. If you're a 2.2 client, it's exactly the same single-click functionality. It's just down the left. If you're a 2.0 client, your menu has always been down the left-hand side, but you've had little plus signs beside your different options if there were more items underneath it. Those plus signs are now gone, and you can click directly on different items. So like, for instance, this would have had a plus sign, and this would have had a plus sign, and you would have to click on it to get to the items. Now you'll have single-click functionality. If you're a corporate user and you need to get to your hotels, you can no longer hover over top of your title up here. You need to use this down arrow to choose the different hotels. My system date is the little calendar. I have a green check mark, a red X. There is a difference in choosing your date. Within the Classic, if you chose the day, the single day last, the system automatically went out and reset. Now, once you navigate to a different day, you do need to click on the green check mark to get it to launch that new day. Underneath the icon, you'll have go to your default, reset your password or log out, and then you have your options for favorites. Underneath your favorites, you can save two different things underneath here. You can save your dashboards that you have created, or you can save reports. So the system reports are all set to default in a way that was set up by your contacts. Like, this is the way we want XXX client to see the P&L. But if you are a member of your organization that doesn't want to see the report the way everybody else does, you can set it up, you can launch it, and you can save it to your favorite the way that you want to see that. My example I usually give on a call like this, if you're a revenue manager or perhaps even someone in sales, maybe you want your daily reports to default to market segmentation instead of overall hotel revenue. You can launch your daily revenue report, go ahead and change the options to show the market segmentation, and you can save it on the right-hand side as my daily revenue, and then you'll be able to come in and navigate to it over here. So those are the two things that you'll save underneath your options. You'll see this is the message icon. There's not really a lot you can change on this. You can look at the last 3 or the last 10 messages. That's based on how many you have out there. You do have a lock option here. You can lock this, and I'll explain to you when we talk about building dashboards why you have the ability to do that. You'll see that my message is sitting on top of what we call the canvas. You can see as I move things around, you'll see a little shadow box showing me potentially where I'm going to drop this box when I drop it. And then you'll see this is the canvas that it's sitting on top of. If I right-click on top of this widget, I'm going to see all my different options for printing this particular data box. If I right-click on the canvas, you're going to see I have a lot other options underneath here. I'm going to go ahead and navigate to a hotel. And I'm going to click on the reports, and I'm going to go into the P&L. I use the P&L just simply because that is a report that almost everybody is familiar with. When you get into the system, you'll see now that on the far right-hand side, and your report will all fit on one page. It's because I've increased my screen for this call. You'll notice on the right-hand side you don't have the ability to print anymore. If you need to print this report, you do need to do so by right-clicking on it. If you want to change the setup of this report, you can come in. So right now I'm looking at the summary P&L, but in my example, if I wanted to look at market segments, I could change it. And if I wanted to look at my forecast compared to my budget, maybe I want to look at this compared to 2 years ago, make all of my changes at once, click on the green check mark, and it's going to reset my report. One of the things I like to show when we talk about the reports is you have an option here that's called widget size. And this is new. It's called full size with frozen header, or you have the option of just a full size. If you have it set up to be frozen header, go ahead and make the changes. The system's going to go out and reset the entire report. Because I chose a frozen header, you're going to notice that as I navigate the data on the screen, the top box is staying the same. Now, I'm on market segments, and there really aren't that many, but if you had a longer report, your top box, just like in Excel, would stay the same, and you would be able to scroll down through the data on the screen. Just about every report has that option to freeze the headers at the top. Once you have the report set up the way that you would like to, I can save this report into my favorites, and I can save it as P&L, Jen's P&L, or whatever you want to call it. And then when you launch the system next time, instead of navigating to your P&L underneath here, you can navigate underneath your favorites. So that is the way you can work the favorites. The favorites are exclusive to you. Your contacts have probably just about 60% of our contacts have said, can I put things in my users' favorites? And the answer is no. Favorites are just like Internet Explorer or Google favorites. They are exclusive to the user. So if you don't want something to be a favorite, no one can put that in there for you. So no one can add and remove from your favorites. Finally, the trash can here in the upper left-hand corner that I spoke about, the difference between the X, which would take me out of my options, the trash can is going to clear my whole screen and take me back to a blank canvas. So that's just some basic navigation and review of the new user interface. We're going to go back to the PowerPoint for just a minute and talk about some dashboarding, and then we'll go back and build an example dashboard. So dashboarding is very new. It's new to everybody regardless of what version you are in the system. You'll see an example of a dashboard on the screen in front of you. The dashboards are made up by what we call widgets. Widgets are data boxes that display your data in different ways. They could be a single gauge, which is in the upper right-hand corner. We do have multi-gauges, which will show you 4 different things. We have some account widgets, and then we have sort of just what we would call data boxes, like the KPI or the K performance indicator. These work just like reports, so once you add them to your dashboard, you can go in and change the options so that they are displaying what you want to see. You do notice that in the upper left-hand corner, your messages, those are the messages that used to be displayed whenever you launched Profit Sage. If you come from a company or an organization who often puts items on the front of your login screen, I do recommend that you put the message icon somewhere on one of your dashboards, preferably the one that launches when you log in, so that you are still kept informed of those things. Because if you remember back when I logged in, that message does not pop up on the main login screen any longer. So different size widgets, different items, they can be changed and updated. There's a couple things to point out. Widgets can be designated as daily or monthly. If you're adding something to your dashboard that is daily, make sure you're populating it with an item that happens daily. For instance, cable television is something that happens monthly, and it does not make sense to put that on your dashboard unless you're building a monthly dashboard. If you're a site user, please refrain from using the items like the key stat below in the bottom left corner. That particular widget compares the top or bottom levels within an organization. So if you're a property level, you're only going to see your own hotel there. So it doesn't really make sense for you to use that widget. To begin creating your dashboard, the first thing you want to do is clear your dashboard and start with a blank canvas. And then you'll right-click on your canvas, and your first option is to add a widget. Whenever you do, it's going to bring you a little box like you'll see on the right-hand side with a drop-down of available widgets. You'll see there's a handful of things in there. They are defined by day or by period. You can also see there's some star things. There's some things at the bottom. So the image widget will be the hotels within your company scrolling by if you're someone that likes to see that. The map widget's going to display, if set up correctly on behind the scenes, it's going to display where your hotels and your company are. So there's some different things in there you can put on your dashboard. You'll go ahead and choose one of those widgets, and it's going to populate that data box on the screen for you. When it does, similar to the reports, you're going to have the option, the little options icon to go into to set up that widget to display data that you want to see. The account list is controlled by your administrator, your ProfitSort administrator. So if you want to add something to there, you can reach out to them and they can put things in your account list. Your comparison boxes, get it all set up. At the very bottom, you'll see you have an area for a custom label. If you don't want to name your widget KeyStat, you can name it whatever you would like. You can go ahead and put your company's name in there and put stat, whatever you would like. It will change it on your dashboard so you can customize the name. Once everything is set up, you'll go ahead and click on the green check mark. We spoke briefly when we talked about the lock option. The reason that the lock option exists is because as you begin to build out your dashboard, the system is going to shift or move your widgets around. If you don't want that to happen, you can lock them. So as you add them and put them in a place where you would like for them to stay, you can lock them, and then when you add a new one, the system won't bump that around. The system sometimes wants to put things in places that it feels it fits a little bit more appropriately, I guess, than what you do. So it will move things around. You can lock your dashboard so that when new widgets are added, they'll stay in place. As far as widgets are concerned, there's a handful of them in there that are available to you. We are continuously working on those. If you come up with something you think would be a great idea for a widget, we are always very, very happy to hear about that. We have created, or we have begun a creation of a few different ones based on some client requests. So you right now can't build your own widgets, but you can certainly send us ideas where we welcome them. We can also add some of your reports in as available widgets. What I will say to you is that be careful incorporating reports into your dashboards, because if you want to see a report, you really should, just go ahead and launch the report. The widgets are a little bit smaller and fit on the dashboard better. If you launch a report and you put your report on your dashboard, it could potentially take up a lot of space and you wouldn't see the other widgets anyways. But we do have that ability for the reports. A couple other things. You can add as many dashboards as you would like. You can build them and save them in your favorites. So as you build them, keep saving them. You can change them, update them, and save them just like you would a Word document or an Excel document. As I mentioned, they can be site or corporate. They can be shared. One of the nice things about the dashboards is that if you build one that you think is just a really great dashboard and that other people within your position might be able to find useful, our contacts have the ability to go in and share your dashboards and make them public. Whenever they do that, it puts them in the report menu. There's now a section of the report menu that says dashboards. So if someone makes something public, you can go in and launch it from there. If you really like something that someone has saved with you, you can then go in and save it as one of your favorites as well. They can be assigned as start pages, and what I mean is they can be assigned as the default that you see when you log in. What I will talk about there is that every one of our clients is now making a decision whether or not they want to allow their users to be able to do this on their own. About 50% of our clients have removed that ability from their hotels and their users to set their own defaults. And about 50% of our clients have allowed their users to continue to set their own. Most of those decisions were based on how much they use that message within the system. If you can't set your own default, you can certainly still have as many dashboards as you want. You just won't be able to see which one you see the first time you log in. You'll know that when you right-click, which we're going to go into the live system and show it very shortly. If your option to set a default is not existent, that means that your company has taken that away from you. Widget development's ongoing. As I mentioned, we are continuously working on that. We're currently working on some GSS widgets, which is pretty exciting, and then you can go ahead and print your dashboard. So let's go back into the live system and make a dashboard. I have a blank canvas already because when I left my report the last time, I used the trash can. If I right-click, my first option is to add a widget. You'll see the options that display for you. I'm going to go ahead and pick my map widget. I only have one widget on the dashboard, so it's not allowing me to add any more. With the map, there are some coordinates, some Google coordinates. They're set up in the options that will control the items that are showing on the map. I'm going to go ahead and add another widget, and I'm going to go ahead and choose the single gauge. So you'll see it kind of moved everything around because it was like, I don't know if it fits there. So once you start building your dashboard, if you lock those widgets, it won't move them. Now I can go underneath my single gauge because the system has some defaults for how it shows. So my single gauge is set up to do one day, so Wednesday the 12th for total room revenue. I want to see that. I still want to see room revenue, but I want to see it, period to date. I want to see forecast budget, and again, 2 years ago. Once you make all your changes, you'll click on the green check mark and it'll add a widget for you. You can continue to add as many widgets as you would like in here, different pies and different graphs and those types of things. Once you have your dashboard to a place that you're very happy with it, you can right-click and you have the Save As option. So if it's the first time you're saving it, you're going to have to save it with a name. So we're going to go ahead and Save As, and I'm going to put Thursday training dash. And I'm going to click on the green check mark, and it's going to go ahead and save my dashboard for me. I should now, underneath my favorites, have an option for my new dashboard that's been built. It's in existence here. If I wanted to share this dashboard, I could reach out to my contact or my person in my organization that sort of is my main ProfitSword contact, and you would see underneath there on the right-hand side, you now have underneath your reports an area for site dashboards. These are dashboards that have been made public and shared with me. So I can launch different things. So maybe not necessarily something I've created, but it is some items that have been shared with me. So if you make something that you like and they make it public, this is where users will see it. Some other options underneath the right click would be save. So if I decide at this point, instead of room revenue, I would like to see total hotel sales, I would come down to departmental sales, make the change, go ahead and right click and click on save, and it's going to update my dashboard with the most recent changes I've made to it. Changing the background, this is something I actually thought was kind of cool in the beginning, but it's something I just usually don't mess with, but it is out here for you. What it does is change your canvas and how it displays. Like I said, not something I usually forget I can do. And then if you don't want anything back there, you have a little option just to make it white. Clear your dashboard. So if I clear my dashboard, it's going to say, do you want to get rid of everything on there? And I'm going to go ahead and click yes, and it's going to start me with a very bright white screen. If you go ahead and use that option, you can use it on reports. You can use it when you have a dashboard up. I'm somebody who does not like to have a lot of windows open on my computer, so that clearing of the dashboard is probably something I use a lot more than I ever thought I would do, because I like to go, if I'm starting a new or looking at a new report, I like to come in here and start with a fresh dashboard. And go back and choose my dashboard here. So setting as a default, this is the option that I said you potentially may not have in your right click. If you right click in the user interface and it is not there, that just means that your person that administers ProfitSage or ProfitSword in your company has decided that they will set your defaults for you. Doesn't mean you can't still create dashboards, you just can't set them to be the one you see the first time you log in. So if I would set this as a default now, log out and log back into the system, this would be the dashboard that pops up first. I can print it or view it as a PDF. I do generally recommend that you go the PDF route with printing your dashboards. They tend to print a little cleaner. If you go straight into the print option, you may have to change some settings in your computer. There are so many different versions and levels of browsers and that kind of stuff out there that you might have to change some of your settings to get it to print clear. So keep that in mind. Deleting the dashboard. If I click on delete for this dashboard, it will be gone forever. I'm not just clearing it, it will be gone. It will no longer exist. And we cannot restore it for you. You would have to rebuild it. So if you delete a dashboard here, it would have to be rebuilt. The last two options I like to review are to lock the dashboard. So if you want to go ahead and lock everything all at once, you can, and you can unlock everything all at once, and it'll change all the locks on your widgets to lock your whole dashboard or unlock your whole dashboard all at once. So before we move on to some of the daily functionality, Bombay, did you have any questions?
No, the one was just pretty easy. Someone was asking if there's an ability to freeze the left pane of the reports.
Mm-hmm. That's actually an excellent question. There are a few screens we have on the list as to enhance to be able to do that. We did at one point when we first built this new user interface on the day-by-day screen, actually, where you entered your revenue in the day-by-day. We did have it freeze on the left as well as across the top, and we had a lot of issues with speed whenever we did that, getting like the speed of launching the page and go ahead and saving on it. So I'm not going to say that that's not going to be in the works. But as of right now, you can't save, you can't freeze on the left. But there are some screens that I know personally, as someone who's using the system now more frequently, there are a few screens that I have that request on my list as well.
No other questions, that's the only one.
Okay, all right, good. So now let's talk a little bit about the daily screens. So for the most part, you will notice as you start to use the new user interface, is that the system, although it looks different from an end user's it's pretty much the same. It's just the screen's a little different. So we're going to review a few things about the daily and the forecasting, but don't be afraid to get in there. It's not a lot different than what you're using now. There is a few things on the daily screen that are different or navigate differently. The first one would be the manual IJ screen has been changed. And this is not for every client. If you are somebody who was implemented with Profit Sage towards the end of last year, you already have this functionality. If you are somebody who was implemented before that, you do not. What you're seeing on the screen in front of you is the income journal, the manual entry of the income journal. That's where if you navigate over to on top of the departments, you click on them, you can bring up your manual entry screen. One of the things that's different in the new user interface is the column for the manual adjustment is now separated. So you'll see you have a column for import gross. That is the column that is set up to be anything that is mapped to amount, negative amount, stat, and negative stat. The import adjustment column is anything that is mapped to adjustment or negative adjustment. And then finally you have a column to enter your manual adjustments. Your right-hand side, your journal entry column, is the combination of all three of those combined, and that is the amount that's going to be exported out to your accounting system. The ability to enter a comment is in there on the right-hand side. Like I mentioned, some clients already have this, some do not. The nice part about this screen is that when you make a manual adjustment in the Classic, if you go back and you change any mapping and you hit that update option, it usually does blow out your manual adjustments. The new user interface, that doesn't happen. If you make any changes to your mapping, to your amount or your negative amount, hit your update button. It won't touch your manual adjustments. It'll just have an effect on your import gross or import adjustment columns. I do recommend, if you're just now beginning to use this, that you go ahead and test that out. We did have to write some code, so if you go in there, just try that out once, make sure it's working fine for you. I think we've cleaned up most of the bugs in that, but let us know if you find differently. Some other daily items that are just a little bit different, your purple action buttons, the items that used to be across the top, some of them now live underneath an options icon, and then some of them actually live underneath the word import, which we're going to see that in the live site. And then you have an option for sorting your checks. So if you're someone who uses the check log, you now have the ability to sort those by check day and check number. So depending on how you would like to see them printed.